Hi, I'm Neil from Fairway Financial Advice. I've had a few people ask me this question, and so I wondered if you might be thinking it too. Particularly if you're a business owner and maybe you've got 2, 3 or 4 business partners. So what happens if something happens to one of the key people? And the question I've got already twice in this last month is talk to me about key man insurance. Well, in this little video here, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I just want to demystify what key man insurance is, maybe give it a different title, and tell you about the 3 things that I think play into business insurance for business partners. So firstly, I don't know whether it's called key man anymore. I think it's called key person insurance. But in the situations that the people have spoken to me this month about, in those examples, it's actually been bigger than key person insurance. They've just heard that terminology. One of them, in fact, said they've had a business coach come into their business, and the business coach identified as an exit strategy they need to address key man insurance. But in fact, once I've spoken with them, we've broken it down into 3 key areas. And businesses can readily insure their goods and services, their building, the cars on the road that they have, the risk, the liability that goes with their products. But in these cases, these 3 business owners have recognised that there's a lot of value in the 3 people who own and run the business, as well as insuring those other assets. So what they're looking at is, what if something happens to an owner? What happens to the ownership of the business? And I would refer to that as either buy-sell insurance or business succession. So it's the ownership. It's who controls the business after an owner dies. So what, in this case, there's 3 owners, 2 in their late 50s, 1 in their 60s. And one of the wives who works in the business has said that the wives have spoken and said, how do we look after each other if something happens to one of the key owners? And the business coach told them, you need to organise insurance that pays out rather than the other 2 having to come up with the money at this stage of their lives, where they're actually looking to exit in the next couple of years, hence using a business coach. So what they're looking to do is they come up with a valuation of $3 million. So $1 million on each of the business owners is held for insurance. If something happens to one of them and they pass away, the money comes from the insurance to the exiting partner. So their spouse exits the business with $1 million and gives back, via an agreement, a legal agreement, gives back the share to the surviving 2. So that can be nice and simple rather than having to go to the bank, reorganise finance. Those 2 guys, as I said, late 50s, 60s, don't really want to be going to the bank to figure out how to borrow money to continue their business and buy out a deceased person. So the insurance can be a real simple way to pay a couple of $1,000 to get $1 million cover if one of those trigger events occurs. The second part, which I would call key person protection, is actually the issue is what's going to happen to the business if one of those key person people die. In this case, the 3 business owners have key roles. One is day-to-day operations, one is technical design, and one is service and maintenance, runs their fleet of their team in that space. So the 3 of them do different things, and they've recognised that if one of those people exits, as well as the ownership, the surviving 2 are going to struggle to keep up with what's required. They're going to have to spend some money and go and find a replacement. Otherwise, that value of the business that they think they've got now probably isn't there. If they're dropping the ball, customers, clients go elsewhere. So they want an injection of money into the business from insurance to help sustain for a period of time while they get back on their feet. So that's ownership, key person protection or revenue protection. And then the third area is debt protection. Does the business, the 3 guys who have signed up for this business, have debts that out with the banks or internally amongst themselves that it's going to need finalising if one of them passes away? So I would refer to that as debt protection or finance protection. The idea is, if particularly joint and several loans, you're on the hook. You're all on the hook. That's what the joint means. Several means it's all there until it's retired, until the debt is retired. So insurance can also pay towards that to clear that up so that the business moves forward without that anchor, and the estate, the exiting person, their estate is off the hook. So it can be a terminology, key man. What is key man? It can be one that people bandy around, but in actual fact there's three components to business insurance for people, and particularly if there's 2, 3 or 4 business partners, highly relevant to consider this. It's about just a seamless or more seamless transition if something like that happens, and the risks are pretty high. If you're getting into your 50s and 60s, if you're in business with people in that age bracket, the risks are getting higher statistically that something can go wrong. So if you're interested in more info, please look me up, and happy to help and give you some advice around business insurance for people. All the best.